14-year-old boy from Malappuram district on 21st of July. According to the State Health Minister Veena George, the teenager who died at the Government Medical College Hospital in Kozhikode was under intense treatment. The minister also added that the government has imposed containment measures in at least 2 panchayats in the district and that 6 persons in the victims' contact list are from other districts. It is now being speculated that some people from Thiruvananthapuram and Palakkad are also showing Nipah symptoms. Urging people to avoid panicking, at least 3 of the boy's relatives are under strict surveillance at the hospital and 4 others who interacted with him are under observation at the Manjeri Government Medical College Hospital in Malappuram. Before we proceed any further, let's listen into what Kerala Health Minister Veena George had to say about the current situation.
വളരെ കുറവാണെന്നുള്ളത് നല്ലൊരു കാര്യമാണ്. കാരണം ലാസ്റ്റ് കോൺടാക്റ്റിന് ശേഷം ഇത്രയും ദിവസങ്ങൾ എടുത്തല്ലോ. അപ്പോൾ സ്കൂളിൽ തന്നെ 11-ാം തീയതിയാണ് ഈ മോൻ പോയിട്ടുള്ളത്. അപ്പോൾ അതിനുശേഷം ഇത്രയും ദിവസങ്ങളായിട്ടുണ്ട്. ഇത്രയും ദിവസങ്ങൾക്കുള്ളിൽ മറ്റ് സിംറ്റംസ് വലുതായിട്ട് ഇല്ല എന്നുള്ളത് ഒരു ആശ്വാസകരമായ കാര്യമാണ്. അതുകൊണ്ട് ഭയപ്പെടേണ്ട. നമുക്ക് ഈ എല്ലാവരെയും സാമ്പിൾ ഹൈ റിസ്ക് ഉള്ളവരെ എടുക്കും. രോഗലക്ഷണങ്ങളുള്ളവരെയാണ് ആദ്യം സാമ്പിൾ എടുക്കുന്നത്. അത് ഓൾറെഡി നമ്മൾ കേരളം ആവശ്യപ്പെട്ടതിൻ്റെ അടിസ്ഥാനത്തിലാണ് ഓസ്ട്രേലിയയിൽ നിന്ന് അത് ICMR എത്തിച്ചത്. അത് അവരുടെ പ്രോട്ടോകോൾ പ്രകാരം അവിടെയാണ് സൂക്ഷിച്ചത്. അപ്പോൾ ഇന്നലെ ഉച്ചയ്ക്ക് തന്നെ നമ്മൾ ഈ കാര്യം രേഖാമൂലം ആവശ്യപ്പെട്ടിരുന്നു. അവർ 3:30 തന്നെ അവിടുന്ന് ഷിപ്പ് ചെയ്തു. അത് എത്തിയിട്ടുണ്ട്. പ്രോട്ടോകോൾ പ്രകാരം 5 ദിവസത്തിനുള്ളിൽ നിന്നാണ് വൈറസ് ബാധ ഉണ്ടായതിനു ശേഷം 5 ദിവസത്തിനുള്ളിൽ മോണോക്ലോണൽ ആൻറ്റിബോഡി കൊടുക്കണം. പക്ഷേ എന്നിരുന്നാൽ പോലും നമുക്ക് മുന്നിൽ മറ്റൊരു ഓപ്ഷൻ ഇല്ല ആയിരുന്നു. അതുകൊണ്ടാണ് 10 ദിവസം ആണെങ്കിലും ഈ മോണോക്ലോണൽ ആൻറ്റിബോഡി കൊടുക്കുന്നതിന് നമ്മൾ തീരുമാനിക്കുക. അതിനാണ് മെഡിക്കൽ ബോർഡ് ചേർന്നിട്ട് 5 ദിവസമല്ല ഇത്ര ദിവസമാണെങ്കിലും നമുക്ക് ജീവൻ എങ്ങനെയെങ്കിലും രക്ഷിക്കാൻ കഴിയുമെങ്കിൽ അപ്പോൾ അതിന് ചാൻസസ് വളരെ കുറവാണെന്ന് ആരോഗ്യ വിദഗ്ധർ പറഞ്ഞിരുന്നു. ഈ മോണോക്ലോണൽ ആൻറ്റിബോഡി ഇപ്പോഴല്ല ഇപ്പോൾ കൊടുത്താലും അത് ഫലിക്കില്ല എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞിരുന്നു. എന്നിരുന്നാൽ പോലും നമുക്ക് മുന്നിൽ മറ്റൊരു ഓപ്ഷൻ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നില്ല. അപ്പോൾ അതുകൊണ്ടാണ് അത് ശ്രമിച്ചത്. അത് തീർച്ചയായിട്ടും അത് ഇവിടെ അവരെത്തിച്ചത് ഇവിടെ ഉണ്ടാകും.
The bigger or perhaps more important question is the recurrence of Nipah in the Kozhikode, Malappuram area. Look, it's not our intent at all to create panic. But Kozhikode witnessed outbreaks in 2018, 2021 and 2023, while Malappuram reported cases in 2018 and 2024. Ernakulam recorded a single case, of course, in 2019. It is a fact that fruit bats are recognized as carriers of the Nipah virus, and often it may not be really possible to deter people from coming in contact with these creatures. But has there been a sustained effort to contain the spread of Nipah? Let's understand, and like I said, without picking on Kerala, as to why it remains so vulnerable when it comes to Nipah. Meanwhile, Kerala governor has assured that the government will bring the situation under control. Let's listen in as many voices that we hear about reassuring all of us that it's all under control. Good for you and I. Let's listen in to Arif Mohammad Khan.
No, Kerala situation, once something has happened, these are all, Kerala has been few years back, has seen this Nipah virus and Kerala took prompt action. So I hope that even now, government, the authorities, particularly the medical people, they will bring this situation under control. At this stage, you can't say anything but to hope and pray that they are rescued successfully.
We've got 2 experts who shall decode why, how and what of the entire Nipah virus issue. Dr. Rajiv Jayadevan, author and chairperson, Research Cell Kerala State IMA is with us, and Dr. A.L. Taf, Professor Community Medicine, Government Medical College, Thiruvananthapuram in Kerala is also with us. You know, first up, I want to ask both of you doctors that, you know, we talk about COVID, excellent job by Kerala government, put the state, actually put our country on the map for saying that, look, this is how you contain a virus. Nipah, there has been continuously, you know, we've seen there has been an outbreak There have also been an outbreak in West Bengal, but somehow Kerala seems to be right on top when we talk about Nipah virus. And of course, a brain-eating amoeba. I want to ask both of you, turn by turn, Dr. Altaf, if you would like to please go first, that why is Kerala seen as so vulnerable to these viruses, sir?
In fact, there are a lot of reasons for newly emerging infectious diseases across globe. And one important reason is climatic changes, as all of us know. Other reasons are population migration, of course, international travel, frequent international travel, deforestation, and of course, unscientific urban planning and development, all those things, urbanization. So all these reasons actually suitable for many of the tropical countries. Of course, Kerala is also is such a place, and its close proximity with the Western Ghat forest ranges, and there are a lot of chances of getting zoonotic infections. The man-animal interfaces.
Yeah, I want to. Yes, that's one of the reasons, Dr. Altaf. I've been reading you very, very extensively on this. And of course, that is one reason, and we have to concentrate on that. So, thanks so much, Dr. Altaf, for opening this debate by saying there are a number of reasons. Dr. Rajiv Jaydevan, Rajiv, welcome to the show. The thing is that it's very, very incorrect or wrong to kind of pinpoint that, look, Kerala has all these. But we all heard Dr. Altaf, what he said. It's the urban-rural proximity to urban-rural population, climatic changes, the forest and urban areas, again, enmeshing with each other, also migration, also foreign travel. But we know all these reasons. They have been persisting for years now. Why has there not been a sustained effort, Rajiv?
Yeah, there has been sustained effort, but let me correct a few misconceptions first. Encephalitis is basically infection of the brain, not the coverings. The coverings of the brain is called meningitis, which can be treated to a large extent. But infection of the brain is called encephalitis, and it's a common and unfortunate and tragic disease that's caused by many factors, many of which are viruses. So we see so many patients with encephalitis all around the world. The question is, do we know what is causing all these encephalitis? So Kerala stands apart in going the extra mile in diagnosing these cases of encephalitis. So Nipah, the diagnosis of Nipah is not an easy one to make for any doctor. So when a doctor is actually diagnosing Nipah, it is actually a positive development from the field of science. But it's sometimes perceived as a fault of the system, saying, you guys are seeing Nipah. Well, how come only you guys are seeing Nipah? That's like saying, you're the only guys doing any testing on it. So that's the first misconception. So there may be other patients who have encephalitis all around the world. They might not be getting diagnosed. And not every doctor in Kerala is able to diagnose Nipah at all. The reason, I'll explain why that is. The initial symptoms are just like any other flu. Now, who's going to test every flu case for Nipah? And then at some point, after the fever and the severe headache and the muscle pains, which most people are going to think, including me, we're going to think it's just a case of flu or something like that. And then it turns into the symptoms of brain infection. When the person becomes confused, person is not able to talk coherently, gets seizures or fits, and maybe trips and falls, has difficulty walking, and eventually slips into unconsciousness. These are clear signs of encephalitis, basically, as I said in the beginning, infection of the brain. Now, that's the point when you start investigating, suspecting what could it be? Is it alcohol? Is it some kind of poison? Is it some kind of infection? Is it a metabolic abnormality? Now, these are thoughts that we are trained to go through when we see a case. And Nipah is one of the very, very rare diagnoses. But the point is, the system is able to pick up these cases, partly because they're used to it. Now comes to the second part of the question, what is being done to prevent the spread? Now, I'll very carefully...
Can you hold that thought, Rajiv? Rajiv, hold that thought. I have to take a break now. When I come back, then Dr. Rajiv Jayadevan will speak about, has there been a sustained effort to contain Nipah in Kerala, and how it's incorrect perhaps to say that Kerala is the only state where there has been a Nipah outbreak. Maybe Kerala is testing more than the other states. Back in a moment, stay with us.
इस खेल में अब खेला होगा, हर नहले पे दहला होगा। ये बड़ा है, स्टेज बड़ा है, पूरा भारत साथ खड़ा है। We are the Tigers, साथ खड़ा है। We are the Tigers, गेम बड़ा है। Dribble like a rap, pass, 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 setting up the trap, kick it hard in the ball, chuck, there for the ball. Chuck there for the ball. Chuck there for the ball. Chuck there for the ball.
How do you fulfill that promise? Because ultimately expectations have to be met. If you look at the political landscape, is it really changing for women? And what is the inability of the forces that dead bodies surface but not the living people?
Cooking is an act of love. The first act of love we receive from our mothers in the families.
Modern Indian food is all about contemporary and innovative approach to traditional Indian cooking.
Representation it's also important, no?
I want to wear this white coat every day and then be a chef.
There are stories. If the name a whiskey is Indri, then there is a whole story behind that.
Cooking food is like a therapy, and eating one is like a pleasure I can give it to myself. With Lounge Nights, I'm on a journey to celebrate and recognize the best food and nightlife establishments in various cities across India.
Radico presents Lounge Nights, premiering every Saturday and Sunday, only on News 9 Live.
That's our main story, and a story which involves all of us. We are asking a question, and that being, why is Kerala in the grip of Nipah yet again? And some myths shall be exploded today on this show. Dr. Rajiv Jayadevan, author and chairperson, Research Cell, Kerala State IMA, is with us, and Dr. A. Altaf, Professor Community Medicine, Government Medical College, Thiruvananthapuram, is also with us. Rajiv, you were saying how sustained efforts have been made to contain it. So tell us, and then I will ask the other doctor about certain other aspects of the Nipah virus.
Yes, the efforts can be divided into two parts. The first is when the virus jumps from the bat to man. Now that is nearly impossible to prevent because there is so much interaction between bat excretory material and man in various ways. I'm not going to get into that. The second is to prevent this first patient, prevent the infection from spreading from the first patient to the rest of the population. And that is where a lot of progress has been made. If you have observed, the first outbreak in Kerala in 2018 affected more than 20 people with a high mortality.
Right.
That was a learning experience of sorts for the entire country on what to do when such a lethal virus strikes.
Right.
And then there were nearly yearly outbreaks, if you will. You listed the numbers in the beginning, so I'm not going to repeat those.
Yeah.
The last two outbreaks affected fewer and fewer numbers, except for last year.
All right.
2 individuals died from Nipah out of 6.
Yeah.
So the point is, the effort must be made to prevent further spread of this virus.
Yeah, but then
that's
one
called
of the
human
thing
to
is,
human spread.
yeah, sure. But then Dr. Altaf, I mean, let me bring you in here. He says enough will be done, you know, as you are doing more research, there are more doctors involved. But the point of the matter is, first of all, I want to ask you, Dr. Altaf, Nipah virus symptoms are very similar to, let us say, a common cold. Unless I become disoriented, I'm not able to speak, I start slurring, and then I kind of go into a coma. That's how I have understood it. Very tough, because it could be, like you doctors say, that it could be a flu for all we know. My point is that, you know, you in one of the articles, you have said one thing which really stands out for me. You said most of them are males in the age group of 12 to 25. Is that correct, Dr. Altaf? I mean, that is a finding.
The primary case
yeah.
for all outbreaks, the age group comes under between 12 and 25 males.
Yeah. So why? I mean, can I ask you? Because see, if it is a fruit bat, suppose I am walking on the street and I eat a fruit, or I eat anything, or I step on something which has that virus because it comes from bats. Why is there an age specific thing, you know, applied to this, Dr. Altaf?
In fact, that is one of the leads for this investigation. This is the outbreak investigation is just like the crime investigation. We have to look each and every aspects. One lead is the age group of the primary cases. And so we can go through their lifestyles, their suppose sometimes they might have habit of trekking or playing with wild animals or animals, pet animals. All those characters, that habits must be probed, and then only we can find it out how this man-animal interface happened, and this disease transmission from either from bats or some animals, some domestic animals, which contracted disease.
Yeah. Dr. Altaf, today Pinarayi Vijayan also spoke about, Chief Minister, that do not panic and, you know, keep away from, you can't keep away from bats because I'm not hanging on the tree branch. I mean, but you know, like, avoid all this. But the point is, if enough and more information is there, why are the people not knowing about it? Where is the gap? For instance, if you told me that there is a brain-eating amoeba, do not go swimming in ponds and other places, it has stayed in my head. You know, I'll tell my children not to do that. Somewhere do you think that the state needs to communicate all these do's and don'ts like it happened during COVID properly to the people?
Anyway, I will tell you one thing. As you know, the COVID is a zoonotic infection. It occurred, the primary case occurred in Wuhan in China way back in 2019 December. And after that, almost 70 crores cases reported across globe and 70 lakhs deaths happened. But we still now, we did not know, we don't know anything about how it occurred. This man-animal interface happened in case of COVID. Like in some new infections, there might be some knowledge gaps might be there, and we have to fill that gap. And Kerala, the health machinery, the entire health machinery in Kerala is trying to fill that gaps, to identify the gap, how it occurred, the route of infection. We need to find it out, and there are a lot of possibilities. One is this fruits bitten by bats, that kind of things. And of course, we need to find some other options also. We have anyway, the team is inquiring it thoroughly, and we need to find it out. That is an important objective.
Yes. So it's a work in progress, Dr. Altaf. I'm taking a break yet again. Rajiv Jayadevan and Dr. A. Altaf, and I'll come back and we shall focus back on the Nipah virus, which has taken Kerala in its grip. But there is no panic, say both the doctors. See you on the other side. Stay with us.
It's the Modi 3.0 government's first budget. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman's 7th. High unemployment, food inflation refusing to ease, and a middle class crumbling under the burden of taxes. What will the finance minister deliver on the 23rd of July? With Viksit Bharat aspirations and a shifting world economic order, will Budget 2024 provide the blueprint for the big leap? Top economists, top market voices, top tax experts, and incisive analysis. Catch live coverage of Budget 2024, 8 a.m. onwards on News 9 Live.
जानना है तो देखिए, समझना है तो सुनिए, सीखना है तो पूछिए, और कमाना है तो खरीदिए। जानकारी, सलाह और निवेश सब एक ही सुपर ऐप पर। पैसे का सवाल है तो जवाब है मनी 9। आजादी पैसे की, अभी डाउनलोड करें।
All right, that's the focus of our first story in the South Indian, and a story which concerns all of us. Is Kerala in the grip of Nipah yet again? I have two doctors with me, very senior. Dr. Rajiv Jayadevan, author and chairperson of Research Cell Kerala State IMA, is with us. Rajiv, tell me something. Dr. Altaf said that the proximity between forest and urban areas, you know, the man-animal conflict, as it were, which became a big issue during Wayanad. We saw many deaths, you know, of people, and it was an election issue as well. Do you think that is one of the reasons why the Nipah virus does rear its head in Kerala, Dr. Jayadevan?
Not really. The reason is as follows. I live in the middle of the city of Kochi, bang in the middle. I have a tiny plot, but I have planted a lot of trees in it. Every night, dozens of bats come and visit my property. And they visit every neighboring property. Things like banana trees, things like mango trees, chiku trees. So these animals, they fly 10 to 15 kilometers every night from wherever they roost from. So it's really not the proximity of the forest. It is true that bats hang around in forests, but bats do hang around near the cities as well. They may not live in the city, they might just live in a quieter place and decide to take a flight towards the end of the day. So that's the first point. Second is, we do not know what specific activity the first patient engaged in that facilitated the jump of the virus from bat to man. We simply do not know. It's an unknown. There are many unknowns in science. It's not necessarily to be seen as a failure. But it's a question, it's one of the many questions in science that remains unanswered. In Bangladesh, let's take Bangladesh's example, there are close to 400 cases of Nipah over the years with a mortality of around 71%,
yes,
which closely tracks the mortality record in Kerala. Ours is around 77%, if I recall, among all the cases. Now, they believe, the experts in Bangladesh believe that it's the consumption of the raw date palm sap that leads to the Nipah infection. Now, this liquor, if you will, it's a mild liquor. It's consumed generally by most people in Bangladesh, as I understand. It's very commonly consumed. Why isn't everybody falling sick? Why aren't more people falling sick?
Yeah, but right. It's a very it's
so
pertinent.
Really,
but
there are some unknown elements in this.
Right, but Rajiv, the point is that if I get Nipah, I mean, people who are on my contact list are also under surveillance. Look at the cascading. I mean, there is a cascading. There is no cascading if I have a common cold or a flu. You know, I take a paracetamol and I'm okay in 3 days. I'm saying that it puts a lot of burden on families and society. That's the question.
It really, I'll explain why it does not put a burden. I'm sorry, I disagree with you. I'll explain why that is. The person with Nipah infection initially has a fever and a muscle pain. That person is not going to infect other people. By the time the person is hospitalized in a coma or having seizures or having paralysis, that person's caregivers, the healthcare workers, could potentially get infected. But healthcare workers, as we know in hospitals, now, at least now they know to protect themselves, which is why the cases are now fewer and fewer into 1 or 2 cases in total. So in other words, unless you are a contact of a patient who has taken care of the patient
Right.
who was ill, got
But
into
how many-
contact
yeah,
with
right.
bodily secretions, you're not going to get infected. So in other words, if you travel in a bus with a patient who's with a fever
Right.
from Nipah, you're not going to get infected. It's
All
not
right.
like COVID.
Yeah. So let me ask Dr. Altaf. Dr. Altaf, what we are hearing is that this child who lost his life, 14-year-old teenager, Dr. Altaf, apparently the mother also is running a fever. I'm not saying it's true, false. It could be some other fever. It could be UTI. I do not know. I'm not a doc. But you know, this awareness, how many people will have that awareness, Dr. Altaf? Don't you think it's difficult, because then lot of people get infected? Would you agree, or you'd say no, that's not true?
Yeah, actually, as we have discussed in the first part, like Nipah has two mode of transmission is there. One is from animal to human, and the next one is man-to-man transmission.
Yeah.
So in the previous outbreaks, in first outbreak in 2018 as well as in 2023 outbreak, of course we have both transmissions were there, man-to-man transmission as well as the nature to man. And in case of this man-to-man transmission, while the patient, the first patient is having sick and symptomatic and infectious, mostly these cases from the history of the previous cases, we will get some leads like terminally ill patients only has the capability to transmit the infection to others. That is why the close relatives sometimes might not get this infection as well. At the same time, the other patients or bystanders or health workers in the hospital might get this infection. This is the reason we can explain like that.
But you know, the thing is, it's still work in progress. I'm sure there'll be a day when there shall be no Nipah cases in Kerala. And thank you to both of you, Dr. A. Altaf and Dr. Rajiv Jayadevan, for exploding certain myths, because everyone thinks, oh, it's Kerala, so yet again there is an infection, which is not true. It's work in progress, and rather it's a good progress which has been made in Kerala. Thank you both doctors for joining us on the opening debate in the South Indian about the Nipah virus spread in Kerala. The second debate, which is coming up in the South Indian, Karnataka government mulls a 14-hour work shift for IT, IteS, BPO sector employees and faces severe backlash. That's coming up after a break. See you on the other side.
$20,000 people dead and counting. What's happening in the United States of America is unprecedented. You will have to pay for this.
For the very first time in our investigation, we unmasked the killer of Ravindra Matre.
In 5G, we have to stand with the world, and in 6G, we have to lead the world.
Winning a Grammy was an absolutely surreal experience.
When we talk about India, unfortunately, the country has the highest burden of road crash fatalities.
तो लगभग 76% लोग pedestrians और two-wheeler वाले हैं जिनकी डेथ हुई है. While the highways are getting better in India, the local roads, the city roads, the town roads, these need to be improved.
This and more. Streaming on News 9 Plus. News is now content. Subscribe and get free vouchers.
All right, the debate number 2 on the South Indian is this, and I'm sure once again, because considering we do only people-oriented stories, it concerns all of us. Karnataka government mulls 14-hour shift and employees are fuming. You know what? It is only last week when the Karnataka government had faced severe criticism from captains of industry and even NASSCOM for the draft bill for job reservation only for Kannadigas. After that, the Chief Minister of the state, Siddaramaiah, had to take it back and said, we're going to look at it with great detail. But guess what? His government seems to be relentless and is now planning to bring in amendments to relevant acts to increase working hours for the IT and ITE sector from 10 hours per day to 14 hours. Reminds one of what Infosys founder Narayan Murthy had suggested about working 70 hours a week in October of 2023. At the time, Narayan Murthy had said, and I'm quoting him here, he said, my request is that our youngsters must say, this is my country, I want to work 70 hours a week. Now, the suggested amendment has raised the hackles of many, and particularly the Karnataka State ITES Employees Union, KITU, which claims that the amendment would be an open challenge to the 20 lakh employees working in the IT sector in Karnataka. The KITU had issued a statement and it said, the bill denies the basic right of any worker to have a personal life. The act, which currently allows a maximum of 10 hours of work per day, including overtime, will be lifted, and this will facilitate companies to extend the work hours indefinitely. This amendment will allow companies to go for a 2-shift system instead of the current 3-shift system. With this, 1/3 of the workforce will be thrown out of their employment. There are, of course, several reports which indicate that long and arduous hours result in not only physical ailments, but include severe mental stress as well. But then, there is this other argument which connects long hours with faster economic development and growth. Also, long working hours is connected with the type of industry and how much it impacts the white-collared versus the blue-collared workforce. Let's debate whether this will go through or not. But this, let's work for more hours. This is something which needs to be debated. Harish Bijur, brand guru and founder of Harish Bijur Consultants Inc., Bangalore, is with us. And also, we shall be joined by Suhas Adiga, who is General Secretary of KITU. And we are waiting for him. Meanwhile, Harish, hi. Welcome to the debate. And, long hours in this part of the world, particularly the subcontinent, I've been speaking to sociologists. They say somehow long hours means diligence, diligence means development. Do you agree, Harish?
Well, let me put it this way. If you look at the history of the world of work, you will appreciate the fact that, in the early days of the Industrial Revolution, people used to work long hours. And these were even usurpative in nature. Fundamentally, people were considered to be resources, and all resources were meant to be exploited, in inverted commas, to the full. And I think the Industrial Revolution gave way to better years. And I think over the years, what's really happened is the West works less and the East works more. Fundamentally, it's about the fact that, there are different parts of the world. There is a supra-developed set of nations, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, etc., which work the least. And then there are developed nations which work lesser, developing countries work even more, and the underdeveloped countries work the most. I think we belong to the developed nations of the world, and therefore we work optimally. And I think a 70-hour kind of a week is not something that we do, but we work about 48 hours a week. And I think that's where we stand at this point of time.
Now, to the 10 to 14 hours, particularly in the IT sectors and also in BPOs, which already speaks about high-level stress. And also, I would reckon that in IT also there are people who work according to their abilities, work according to their skill sets. Do you think this 4 hours increase is really going to make a difference? Or do you think, I think sometimes it's completely unfair? And I was talking to somebody who said that, listen, you're privileged, you have all this work-life balance and everything, without knowing that in our sector, media, we can work from now to never. We are always no holidays, etc. But coming back to this debate, do you think that 4 hours increase, which is there, makes any sense? I mean, there are no flexi hours, I guess. It's about, I mean, it happens in America, but then they have flexi hours. I mean, you can go home at 4 p.m. and make it up, you know, during the week.
You know, increasing a set of hours from where they stand may not be necessary at all. Because I think we live in an era where, you know, productivity is actually not only linked to the number of hours you put in. And whether you put in those hours at the work spot or whether you put it at your home from where you work, these are two separate arenas. I personally feel that how much must we work is a question that must be answered by an individual who's working, not by an employer. Because, you know, if an individual wants to work 70 hours a week, so be it. And I think he, she, or they must be remunerated for working those 70 hours. If somebody wants to work 48 hours, they should be remunerated for those 48 hours. So I think the choice of working number of hours must be totally left to the individual. And I think that is the best way to manage it all.
Harish, also this entire debate about that we, the young, should, you know, really contemplate, they should be working more, they should introspect, and how if I as a company or we as a conglomerate, we are not doing very well, then increasing work hours perhaps would, you know, lessen the gap between what I projected myself to be quarter to quarter. So let's do this, maybe we'll get there. What do you, instead of struggling with P&Ls every quarter?
You know, I think business is reasonably intelligent today, and, you know, business has its ways of finding out that, you know, it's not necessarily those extra number of hours that actually get you where you want to be. And I think industry understands that quite clearly. So it's a question of saying, you know, hey, listen, leave the choice to the individuals to decide what they want to do. Let governments not tread into this arena and say that, you know, we could allow you to work so long. Actually, the law that we're talking about is the Shops and Establishments Act as of today. And I think if you look at the Shops and Establishments Act, I think it has one basic flaw. I worked with the Shops and Establishment Act for the last 30 years. And the flaw is that shops are combined with establishments. Establishments are much of the time business houses, corporates, offices of all kinds, whereas shops are those, you know, tiny little places which actually employ other people to work with them. Now, shops have a different diktat and mandate. Shops are wanted to be kept open by consumers longer hours, whereas establishments are not necessarily wanted to be kept longer hours by the consumers. They wanted to be kept longer hours by the employers. So I think we should divide the two and say that, hey, listen, establishments will have a different rule and shops could have longer working hours. Because look at our cities today. If you look at the big cities, the Chennai, if you really look at Chennai, Hyderabad, Bengaluru, Thiruvananthapuram, if you talk only the south, you're really talking about these are places where people are working longer hours. And since they're working longer hours, they want shops to be open longer hours as well. The law must be able to say that you can keep your shop open for 24 hours. Okay, and that was proposed at points of time. At points of time in certain places, they've even been extended to about 18 hours of open working hours, provided you use shift employees. So my point is, retail outlets must be kept open longer, and I think they must be kept open with shifts where employees are well taken care of. Whereas establishments, I think we need to say that, yeah, an establishment could be working 24 hours, no problem, but there will be 8-hour shifts. And these 8-hour shifts will be monitored very, very strictly. And those 8 hours will give you those 48 hours which you and I want to work.
Right.
And I think just as long as you don't exploit an employee, I think everything is fine.
Right. Suhas Adiga is also with us, General Secretary of KITU. He's with us. Thank you, Suhas, for joining us. You know, we're doing this story because it has really upset or riled up a lot of people, and particularly you. I mean, you say this is against. I want to hear from you that, you know, Harish and I were talking about this. Is it linked to development? Is it linked to economic growth? Is it linked to value? I always talk about how much of a value are those extra hours, instead if you're just going to do it because it's been imposed on you. So over to you, Suhas. Tell us, what are the problems? Is it only the mental health, the physical health? health? What about the rights of the workers, etc., etc.?
Yeah. So basically, now as per the amendment, there is no upper limit for this one. How much hours employee can be made to work. So this is the primary issue. So like there are cases where like specifically if I talk about if there are process or there are industries where the employees are made to work in like in month end or year end shifts are there. So month end there will be high flow of work, or year end there will be high flow of work.
Right.
So what we see is that it will be directly affecting those people. They can be made to work for without any sleep or without any limit or something like that. So this is the primary issue what we are facing. One more issue is that as per the based on if people are working for 14-hour shift, so you don't need 3 shifts of people to work in a day. So that can be reduced to 2 shifts, and one third of the employees who are working this shift kind of processes can be moved out. So this is basically a process where employers maximize their profit by exploiting the employees as much as
You
possible.
think this is exploitation? 10 to 14 hours is exploitation?
Exactly.
What if I'm ready to work for those extra 4 hours? What should I be demanding? Suppose I'm ready. Are you paying
that's
me
a
extra?
different question. I'll give you the current study. So there are currently all the employees, even the working hours is 9 hours. Employees are made to work after 9 point hours.
Oh yes, yes.
Even on support basis if the emergency comes in. So these are the issues what we are currently facing as well. There are people who are pulled in as per the cases say report itself. Employees, up to 74% of the employees say that they have to leave their personal affairs or personal activities so that they can support the immediate requirement of the company. So this is currently we are seeing. So the only difference here is that this one company has no limit on how much they can pull us in. So this is what we are seeing. So this is actually inhumanly, and it will be leading us to slavery. So this is as simple as it. So we as a union, we are we are strongly suggesting our voice.
Right.
That we
I mean, before I've completely run out of time, I'll just ask a question to Harish Bijur. Harish, the problem. Okay, so I think we've lost the connection to Harish Bijur. Suhas Adiga, I want to ask you before I let you go that there are no rules or specific. I don't think we as people, as workers, even know our rights. Most of the time we are very scared that if I don't work those 1 hour extra as told by my boss, I will lose out during appraisal, or I will lose my job and I will not get another job. Don't you think in Europe and America, workers know their rights? What's the point? I do not know a single right. What rights do I have? Because HR, is seldom helping you out.
Exactly, sir. That's the reason we are here. We are a union of IT employees. So we are currently 10,000 strong. So we are taking up the initiative wherever the injustice happens to employees. So that's why the union has been created. Okay. Right. So we are currently 11,000 strong. We are this is the only way we can fight against these issues.
Absolutely.
We can only fight collectively. So that's the reason I call for all the IT employees in Bangalore or across the country to support solidarity, and if you are working in Karnataka, join our union and let us fight for the rights of the employees.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much. Harish Bijur, thank you very much. And also Suhas Adiga, thank you very much for joining us on this debate. The next story coming up, the mystery deepens in the Armstrong murder case. AIADMK functionary Haridharan has been arrested. Total arrest count reaches to 15. That's the story. The Armstrong murder, the mystery deepens by every day. There is an irony insofar as the murder of BSP leader K. Armstrong is concerned. The man was hacked to death in public view on 5th July, and there was no doubt that he was indeed eliminated. But then look at the investigation, which seems to be shrouded in mystery, with one theory after the other doing the rounds. So far, 15 people have been arrested in connection with Armstrong's murder, with one, Thiruvengadan, who was killed in a police encounter. Several theories have also floated around about the killing being either revenge killing. They said, oh, there was money involved, or some people are saying, no, it's a political murder. Meanwhile, one more accused was arrested by the Chennai police called Haridharan, an AIADMK functionary and who's a lawyer from Tiruvallur, allegedly for helping the other accused in the case dump 6 mobile phones they were using in the Kosas Thalai river. According to the accused, the phones were handed over to him by one Arul, who's another accused in the case. The police said that the role of more suspects come to light once the data is retrieved from all these phones, and maybe there are more arrests to be made. The other criminals turned politicians arrested in the Armstrong murder include Advocate Malarkodi, an AIDMK functionary from Triplicane. Malarkodi had a very controversial life as her husband was a history sheeter who was murdered in 1997, and her son was also involved in a revenge murder. Then came the turn of a BJP functionary, M. Anjali, a woman again from North Chennai, allegedly the partner of Arcot Suresh, who is said to be the main reason for the revenge murder of K. Armstrong. Also one D. Selvaraj, who was a BJP functionary from Tiruvallur, he was also arrested. Meanwhile, well-known film director and Neelam Foundation coordinator Paranji, who was seen sobbing uncontrollably when he visited the slain leader's residence to pay his last respects, said this. He said, "Armstrong was like a brother to me. He was a powerful leader in the city, politically and even in his community. He had also helped several youngsters with education and their betterment. There is a big conspiracy behind the murder." The murder of Armstrong has shaken the political ground in Tamil Nadu and put the ruling Dravida Munnetra Kazhagam in a spot due to a worsening law and order situation. This is one crime and many crimes like this, which may make it very tough for the Stalin-led government to make a comeback in 2026. As promised, I leave you with some of the other top headlines from the south of India. Thank you for watching. Vanakkam.
Who am I?
Nobody can crack that mystery.
There is a certain expectation of me.
That's the only contradiction.
Life itself is stranger than fiction.
I was a perfectly normal person born in an abnormal world.
I really didn't understand why is it different.
Just imagine a child who is bullied every day.
Boys school में कुछ लड़का लोग मेरे साथ sexual abuse किए. मुझे तेरे बारे में सब पता है और मैं तेरा rape कर दूँगा.
You also start to stigmatize.
अरे ये तो time pass है.
Sex doesn't come in the picture. Sex comes very late. Then there are man-made narratives.
Why do you walk like that? Why do you sway so much? So you can understand the trauma of a person who's trapped in a wrong body.
But nothing can bind life.
We have to reclaim the lost position. We fought for more than 10 years.
Today I'm the mother of the industry.
I'm a first transgender member judge.
You can't walk in everybody's shoes.
This is what I'm comfortable with. They just are what they are.
You become the light yourself.
That is the change that I was looking for.
When I recognize myself is a small story, but it's an interesting one.
This is News 9 Live, India's only digital exclusive live stream. For the early adopters, bringing you the news 24/7. For the small audiences on the smartest TVs. News 9 Live. Stream now on your smart TVs.